Shalom Aleichem, Mishpachim. I'm coming to the continuation of a Sefer, Rabbi Nachman's Outpouring of the Soul. We are in meditation 14, I believe. 14. Yes, we are. Titled Encouragement. All right. Let us begin. The Rebbe would constantly give encouragement to those who came to him and complained that they were far from true prayer and that they found it very difficult to pray. He would encourage them and comfort them in every way possible so that they would not become discouraged. He would often say, a person can find comfort and joy in the fact that he is worthy of saying the words of the prayer service. I once heard the Rebbe speaking with a simple man who found it difficult to pray with feeling. The Rebbe told him that he should recite only the preliminary prayers before Baruch She'amar with feeling. It is possible that in this incarnation in Gilgal, he needed only to rectify that part of the service, since the rest of the service had already been rectified in previous incarnations. In this incarnation, he had to recite only the parts before Baruch She'amar with concentration and feeling. He should therefore place his entire effort into concentrating on the portion of the service before Baruch She'amar. Once he had accomplished this, he should consider that the portion of the service that he must rectify is that from Baruch She'amar to Vayevarech David. He should then recite that portion with great concentration and feeling. He should continue in this manner throughout the entire prayer service. In general, a person should not frustrate himself by trying to perfect the entire service at once. Rather, he should make it an effort to say at least a little with proper concentration. Obviously, it is always possible to concentrate on a small section of the service. Then, little by little, he can add other portions. Elsewhere in the Rebbe's writings, it is explained that in most cases one cannot recite the entire service properly, but only a small part of it. This is because each person can properly recite only the part of the service that relates to a spiritual state. Thus there are masters of hands and masters of feet. Since each person can concentrate on the portion of the service that relates to a spiritual state, one should not be discouraged if he finds himself concentrating properly on only a small portion of the service. Sometimes he may have good concentration and suddenly it breaks off and he cannot pray properly, no matter how he tries. Sometimes this is the way things must be, as discussed earlier. In such a case, one should make every effort to recite the rest of the service with absolute simplicity. Through this, God will help him arouse himself so that he will be able to recite the rest of the service with proper alertness. Even if one is not worthy of spiritual arousal during the entire service, what is done is done. If he is worthy, he may still try to recite a psalm or other optional prayer with intense concentration. Every person is aware of his shortcomings. He must therefore realize that he is very far from the concept of prayer, which is very, very high. How can he be worthy of such a high level of service? Therefore, each person must merely do his part. He should recite the words of the service with absolute simplicity, paying careful attention to what he is saying. In most cases, he will automatically begin to have proper concentration and alertness. Elsewhere, the Rebbe states that a person must strengthen himself in prayer even when he is not worthy of praying with spiritual attachment, and when his prayer is not fluent. At such times in particular, he should strengthen himself to pray with all his might and with full concentration. When he is then worthy of praying with spiritual attachment and fluency, he can elevate all his other prayers with the one recited properly. This is alluded to in Moses' words, I pleaded with God at that time, saying. Moses was saying, I pleaded with God at all times, whether with spiritual attachment or without. But at that time, saying, when I was worthy of praying with attachment and fluency, I was able to elevate even the prayers that I said improperly, along with those said with proper concentration. In another place, the Rebbe says that a person's prayers are sometimes devoid of enthusiasm and feeling. At such times, one must arouse his own emotions and make the words burn like a fire in his heart. A person can sometimes work himself up and make himself angry. People say he is working himself up into a rage. One must do the same during prayer and be like the person who makes himself angry. One can work himself up and bring emotion and feeling into his prayer. The enthusiasm may be forced at first, but it will eventually become real. The heart will seem to burst aflame with God's praise, and the person will be worthy of experiencing true prayer. And that is meditation 14 in Rabbi Nachman's outpouring of the soul. Have a wonderful night. Laila Tov.